All right, North South Connection, YouTube. We are here with my buddy Richie to go over the January 2025 version of Saturday night's main event. Richie, overall, what did you think of the second edition of Saturday night's main event since the comeback?
Much like the first one, I thought it was fine. Nothing overly exciting, nothing overly offensive. It was just the definition of fine.
A little safe, but overall, an easy 2-hour watch. You know that these they're not even PLEs. You know that these Saturday night's main events are going to kind of get hampered by commercials, especially in the middle of matches. Felt that tonight, especially with the main event as they were trying to ramp it up. I think overall they did a good job of structuring the show. I like the structure better with the 4 matches opposed to the 5.
Right.
And I felt that we didn't have to go so heavy on the nostalgia this time around since we did last time around. Overall, it felt like it wasn't such a sprint. It was more of a let's settle in, and we kind of got our groove. But I felt that my expectations for that groove was a little bit higher than what we've got. Again, that's kind of on me, as it tends to be. So I agree with you. Fine. I would say, all right, well, here's the thing. If I was like going out of 10, 5 would be a fine. Right. I think I'm more of like a 6.5, 7, just like I was last time.
This show has been like, again, it's sandwiched, because the Rumble's next weekend too. So I think a lot of people are having eyes on that. So it's one of those things where it's like you see the championship matches and you're like, all right, there's a potential they could like pull off like a shocking upset, but you could tell they want to play the safe route before heading into a show like the Royal Rumble where they want their bigger surprises. So it's one of those things where it's like, is what it is. But we'll get into it like different moments where we thought like if there was a potential for a surprise or anything like that. But overall, it met my expectations. Again, the commercials, like you said, do kind of put like a stalemate on some of the matches. But we still saw some pretty fun stuff, and that's what wrestling's all about, apparently.
Yeah, no doubt. It was, like I said, an easy 2-hour fun watch overall for sure.
Yeah.
But you mentioned surprises. I was surprised what we got with the opener here. We didn't get much nostalgia leading in. I think we had the entrances about 4 to 5 minutes into the Saturday night's main event, which was a cool, good structure to go with. But I was surprised at the women's open. I kind of felt that the IC was going to. But I'm not mad at the women open. I like that the pacing they got. But overall, let's kick it off here with Rhea Ripley defeating Nia Jax to retain her women's world title in 8 minutes. But Richie, this is going to be a theme of the night. I would like you to guess out of that 8 minutes how much was shown on Peacock in Spanish or of course NBC in Spanish, right? So by the time this match kicked off, the Spanish was done. But to rewind a little bit, I was completely thrown off with the Spanish. I was like, what the fuck? And then I had to like text a few groups. I think I mentioned it to you. We were getting Spanish on NBC for the first 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah, because the network feed is always going to be faster than the streaming feed from my experience. So what I did was I went to NBC and then like everything's in Spanish, and I'm just like, oh, they got the Spanish audio in. So I went to the Peacock version. The Peacock version is about like 30 seconds behind the network version. So I'm like, all right, let me be on here for a while, then I'll switch to the network version, and it was fine like that. But for how long it's been, like the Spanish audio was in, I think probably around like probably like 5-ish minutes, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was gone by Rhea's entrance or Nia's entrance, right? So I get like you're a professional company, you're a $1 billion company. How does that happen? It's broadcast TV. I don't know, some intern probably fucked up or something. But that's not acceptable. Here's the thing: if the roles were reversed, AEW be getting dragged through the mud.
Absolutely, yeah. So
it's was doing that, we would still be hearing about it.
It was just like one of those things where it's just like how like not only like how this happened, but for a long amount of time, like the audio was there, where it's just like it's like maybe like it was like when we were trying to set this up, like I couldn't hear your audio. Is it like one of those things where it's like we had to like kind of set up a little bit, but it's like, is what it is. It's just like that's gonna happen when you're on live TV. Regardless, like audio problems can happen, but is what it is. But 8 minutes for the Rhea and Nia match.
Yes,
Jeez.
What do you think was actual? That was probably bell to bell, 8 minutes. What do you think was shown on NBC?
Probably like half of that, right?
6 minutes and 32 seconds was shown on NBC.
Mm.
So I think they went entrance, got into the rhythm, commercial, and they kind of got straight to the heat.
Right.
For a sprint, I was pleasantly surprised here. I thought that they were kind of I thought they did a decent job back in Perth at Elimination Chamber to deliver a adequate main event. Like it was like a 3-star,
Right.
a Madam's 3-star match. It was a little swampy, a little clunky at times, but I felt that they didn't have the clunk at all, and the pacing was to kind of stay ahead of the chemistry that they actually had tonight that I felt that they didn't really have in Perth. So Nia's kind of clicking here, coming out of her title reign, and just again back-to-back performances from Nia Jax with the Naomi match where she's kind of delivered on TV. So I don't know. I felt that this one,
for what it was fine.
It passed.
Yeah. Like
I like the structure. Yeah.
Like and Rhea, I think did like a springboard, try to go for like the springboard Hurricane Rana, and then hit a code red out of that too.
Yes.
Which was super impressive. So again, with that in mind, the Saturday night main event specials, from what I'm gathering by just watching being there for the last one and just watching this one, they're trying to gather kind of like the old audience with the new audience on NBC as well, since this is like network specials. So it's not going to be structured for the professional wrestling fan as much as the weekly television is. This is more akin to that first Netflix show than it was, the week after with all that kind of stuff. So again, it was one of those things where I was just like, kind of like I'm like, all right, we're not going to see like, the 30-minute Iron Man classics with this or anything like that. But like with Rhea, I think in this match, in difference between the one with Nia Jax is like, one, not in Australia, so I didn't have to wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning to watch it. Two, it's like Rhea's more of a clearly defined babyface here. So she is going to try some new things, especially now that she's in that John Cena position, for lack of a better term. So you're going to see her do more babyface like motions, like we mentioned the code red spot, and just like her being overly dominant in general. The question is, who is going to challenge Rhea for the championship? Because I think out of all the champions or the major champions right now, I think hers has the most like question mark over her head about it, because there hasn't been like an obvious person that's been set up. We have Charlotte, but we don't know which way Charlotte's going to go.
So it's 3 people, really, I would think. Charlotte, if they want to go with the trilogy, it's 1-1. And mind you, at 39, they did that out of nowhere, too.
Yeah.
That was not rumored. That was not nothing. Rhea won the main event, and Rhea won the Rumble, and then she pretty much was like, well, I want to revenge my loss 2 years ago, and I'm calling you out. And it was like, wow, there was no rumors of that. There was no nothing. And I was like, wow, let's go. That was awesome in the pandemic, right? And second one is the rumor coming out this weekend that Belair is probably
one of the
names. It has been discussed to be one of Rhea's kind of opponents. It's been a dream match all along, and honestly, it could have main evented a WrestleMania. I don't think it would get the main event this year because the men's stars are really cooking with gas, and I think their star is much is brighter much right now. Kind of Rhea kind of deserves one, and Belair has, of course, already had one, but should have another one in her resume. But I just don't feel like 41 is the time to main event with the women. As of now, we'll see what happens. I don't want to force it, right? Like I want it has to feel right. And the other one is Sky Io. She had a really good 2024. But then again, she's positioned as baby. Do they go with that baby face versus baby face presentation?
Right.
With the other one, you could have a freshly turned Belair, and then you could have Charlotte, who's kind of always a heel, right? Or positioned as Charlotte. She doesn't really need to declare.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like those 3. I don't feel like they should do Becky again. They did that last year. I don't feel like that would fit again this year.
Right. Yeah.
The rumors of Belair, the rumors of Sky, and then really Charlotte in the bank whenever you can never rule her out. And I think the trilogy will fit one day. And it could be a 41, honestly, maybe. But I'm not sure. What do you think? Out of those three, which is the best option?
Like, I feel like Rhea and Belair has been kind of built like subtly, just like them positioned in different brands. It's almost like for the longest time, I remember like, watching like Ruthless Aggression. Shawn was always on Raw, Taker was always on SmackDown, like Cena was on SmackDown for a while, and then Randy was on Raw, and they were always kept separate until the time for them to actually finally clash with each other. And I feel like the women's tag team championship situation, along with the Jade Cargill situation, is the big question mark that I think people want to like answered first, and then we could kind of like focus on Bianca and Rhea potentially, because it's just kind of like how do we get from this point to that point, depending on who's revealed to be the attacker and everything like that. Let's see, Charlotte or Becky, like
Pudgy Mike, what's up, buddy?
Let's see. In terms of what I'm trying to think,
I feel,
well, I feel like Becky, like I think she has a built-in story with Lyra for the IC championship.
Yeah,
kind of like put some more establishment on there, and overall, I think this match was like a good like appetizer. I'm trying to think what Nia does next. I think she goes into tag ranks with Candice for a little bit. Kind of do the Shawn Diesel thing.
Yeah.
And then after that, you just kind of see where she goes. I feel like Nia and Tiffany's like an obvious matchup on the road to WrestleMania. If Nia,
the road, not WrestleMania.
yeah, the road. Whether it's Chamber, whether it's a Super Show between that, or like a SmackDown, because SmackDown's 3 hours. I'm not sure if you've been watching all those SmackDowns. It's like the shows have been fine. They're just long. You know what I mean? So it's like they have. I think I saw somebody post where it's like SmackDown's a 3 hour show with a 2 hour roster.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just like you have
an hour and a half of star power, really.
Yeah. Like I was streaming with one of my friends the other day, and she just looks at her watch, and it's like 8:30. She's like, I got 2.5 hours of this left. I'm just like, crazy. Yeah, that's what happens. But overall, this match was fine, I thought.
Yeah, not to get off a tangent, but that SmackDown, I feel like the tropes are they would announce matches beforehand, and now they use the show structure to build the matches within the show, right?
Yeah, which is fine, because
fine, but it's just filler.
Like the thing is, it's like you could do it correctly, like we've seen in like Raw and SmackDown's past, where it's like like there are the show storylines, whether it was like the Zamboni, whether it was like the Angle and the cowboy hat thing, where it's like kind of tying through the show, and then you end off with a match, But the problem is, it's just like I don't think they're using them with characters that have been well established. It's going to be established eventually, but you had like the Motor City and the DIY stuff. They had multiple segments yesterday on the show too. So it's more of them establishing their personalities in front of the audience, and then once that happens, then people will start gaining interest. But for now, it's going to be quite an adjustment. And with the transfer window and the call-ups eventually, I think like the whole shift is going to be going to bring a new life into the show. And hopefully we go back to 2 hours in June, I think it is.
Yeah, it's gonna be is what it is, right? It's gonna work itself out, and it's just gonna be a lot of filler. But overall, Dominic Johnson here. Love the lowering of the microphone for the old school effect. Yeah, and I had that old school vibe, especially with Ventura coming out for this next match here.
Yeah,
with Breaker and Sheamus. Match of the night. I anticipated it to be match of the night. I did the preview with Merrill for this match, and I said in that preview that I felt that this was going to be the baseline for the high peak of a Saturday Night Main Event match quality, and it delivered. A little shorter than if this was on a PLE, right? But I love how they structured the match into the commercial breaks, right? With that spear, you're yearning for it to get back so we can see these motherfuckers kill each other. The lawn dart right before the spear. These guys were kind of going with the Haas fight that we saw in the first match, style-wise with the women, but they were bringing bombs on bombs. Sheamus, I didn't feel like it was his time. I think they eventually get there because obviously they keep continuing the story. But overall, Richie, this match was 11 minutes and 30 seconds, the second longest match of this card. Before you trying to jump into your thoughts in this match, would you like to guess how much was shown on TV of that 11 minutes and 30 seconds?
Probably like 7 or 8, I want to say.
Pretty close. 7 minutes and 54 seconds.
Ooh, okay.
So, like I said, they did a great job with that extended. It was an extended commercial break, but you think that they felt here's like behind the curtains, like, are we going to roll this back and like kind of see how the sausage is made here?
Yeah.
Do you feel that they were going to like, all right, well, we have a long commercial break here. This is going to be like a 3.5-minute commercial, 4-minute commercial break. Mm-hmm. Let's have that big impactful spot for when they get back. He's still selling, right? I was like, in retrospect, that kind of just went off my head that perhaps that's why they did that.
It's ending off like a sentence with an exclamation point. You know what I mean? Where it's like, boom, here's like the first like act of this match. And now you're like, oh, I can't wait to see what happens next. You know, that spear was incredible. And I think like the underrated story of Sheamus trying to win the Intercontinental Championship is probably one of the more compelling stories for older fans, just because Sheamus has pretty much done it all. And, you know, there's a real legitimacy in trying to like see like if he can actually win it before he retires. And now he has a 5-year extension that he said he had. So we have some time. But with Braun Breaker, he hasn't really been portrayed on television as much, even like before Raw went to Netflix. So it's kind of interesting to see like how they're trying to portray him, because he's a babyface against Kaiser. He's a heel against Sheamus, you know. So he's doing that whole tweener thing where it's like, it doesn't matter who you are. He's just going to take you out no matter if you're heel or baby. And with Braun, I kind of wanted him to like show up with the classic IC title, you know, just because
it's
like
I feel
a Saturday Night's main event, and I feel like every once in a while, like, or at least once, like somebody comes up with the classic championship, and it'll be like a good rub for Braun Breaker too. You know, having him with that classic IC title while also brandishing the new IC title too. And with Braun, his year last year was, for lack of a better term, kind of like a breakout year for him, in that a lot of people wanted him to be the IC champion. They were upset when he lost to Sammy. They were upset when he lost to Jay. But ever since like he regained it, it's like his momentum just kind of like flatline, but still at like the high level flatline.
Yeah,
where it's like we're still looking for that next level of his elevation. And again, defeating Sheamus, defeating Kaiser, you kind of like sit here and question like who else is next. And until this transfer window period ends, we're not really sure what direction he's going in. And that's both exciting and it could be frustrating as a fan, because you're like, all right, what's he going to do next? And you don't want title reigns to like you don't want a champion to hold the title just to have the championship. You want him to continuously improve and progress with that. And with the Braun, very impressive during this match. I thought the ending sequence was great. You know, the bro kick and then the foot on the rope, and it was like barely on the rope too, which I really enjoyed. And then, I call it like the rubber band spot, where it's like they both miss each other. Like Sheamus went for the brogue, Braun hits the spear again, 1, 2, 3, and then establish with that. And I just kind of struggle where both these guys are heading to next, whether it's still with each other or it's separating and going to different things. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I feel that time away from each other would probably do Sheamus a little better than not.
Yeah.
I feel like, his next opponent will probably be a transfer window guy, or maybe if the transfer window calls for an NXT guy. And honestly, Breaker makes more sense for like a Goldberg at A-Mania opposed to in the Gunther. So yeah, I'm kind of game for all of that. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they got the belt off Breaker, not like in like a weird triple threat or something.
Sure.
Right. So just to protect him, to give him. How about Jesse making fun of the Steiner, calling him stupid?
Well, again, Braun Breaker's not a Steiner; he's a breaker. You know,
he is a breaker, that's for sure.
He's a breaker, yeah.
But overall, match of the night. I anticipated to be match of the night. Perhaps I set the bar a little bit too high for myself, but I still thought that they got to that 3.5, 3, maybe even a low 3 3.75 match for myself. We'll see. I just felt that again. You gotta stop talking me out of getting my anticipating so high and thinking it's going to be so well. So yeah. All right, real quick. Dominic Johnson here. I think you need the legends in love and the nod of nostalgia. I hope they don't get rid of it and keep Jesse. What do you guys think? Yeah, I felt Jesse here instead of the main event was pretty cool because the IC is an older belt, and low key he kind of has a history with Sheamus, right? He called the Battle Royal that Sheamus won back in 2009 with Vince, and then that was propelled Sheamus to the TLC match or TLC table match with Cena in 2009 December-ish.
Oh, 09, yeah.
Belt. So do you know actually it was pitched for Swagger, and then they ended up giving
that. Sheamus said that on the CVV, and I was just like, yeah, they made the right choice.
Absolutely. And then Swagger won the Money in the Bank at WrestleMania 26 as like a kind of a payback.
And just kind of like if Shawn hasn't, like the crazy domino effect of Shawn not considering to like retire WrestleMania 26, because that year we would have gotten McIntyre and Taker, and we would also got Shawn Michaels and Miz. Which would have been like a wild thing to think of. And like in my head canon, Shawn Michaels, it's like, oh, you're gonna work with Miz, and he's like,
yeah, I'm
like I know that's not what happened, but in my head canon, I'm like, the Marine 3 guy.
And then Dominic, to his point of nostalgia, before this we saw Alundra Blaze, Mark Henry, and the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase. So they're mixing in the legends throughout the night. All not throwback mid-80 guys, only really DiBiase from the 80s. So what do you think? Do you think that Blaze and Henry are okay for the Saturday Night Main Event?
I think it's fine. It's in concerns of trying to establish the legends and trying to use them. I don't like it when, and this goes for anything of entertainment, when you lean on nostalgia to be the crux of your show, because you're there to establish the newer talent. And Triple H has done very well with that in establishing the newer talent. And there are ways you could use nostalgia to prop up the current acts, like what you said before with Jesse, and I think Jesse's commentary adds a lot to it. I feel like you could do it a little bit more, where it's just kind of like whether it's Alundra and just like kind of giving a nod to like the women's division, and Henry's there because Henry's a Texas guy, and then DiBiase was there. Well, like the front row like stuff doesn't really do much for me, just because it's like, oh, cool, they're in attendance, but it's like that's what they kind of do in like other like UFC too. So it's like it doesn't really bother me. It's harmless. So it's one of those things. It's like, oh, cool, they're here.
I definitely think it adds to it, and it adds to the nostalgia of the night. And yes, they should keep Jesse all night. WrestleVote saying that Jesse, like on the horse, fucked with me, because that's such an iconic thing that he did with Vince when they were in Texas for Saturday Night's Main Event. I think 88 or 89. Either way, riding out on the horse is so memorable and awesome. Like, are we gonna get that tonight because we're in Texas? But
I also like the guardrail stuff too, where it's like the classic, like with the entranceway, it's like the steel guardrail. So it's like one of those things where it's like they're going retro, but they kind of modernize the look and the style and stuff. So I really appreciate it. Like when they use nostalgia, and it's not like one of those Raws where it's like, oh, it's retro Raw, and then it's just like we're throwing these legends in this segment because it's not to elevate the current roster. It's to be like, look how cool we used to be. It's like now it's like you have enough acts and talents where they could stand on their own in terms of popularity.
Yeah, and I like that, like they're like 3/4 down the aisle, and then the security guards arrive behind them just in case of any chaos shows up.
It's like, again, little things like that. It's just like really fun. It's just like adds to the vibe.
I look good in a suit. I'm going to put my name in for that. You know what I mean? We'll see how.
You know what? If you know what, I will. If you need a reference, they could call me, and I'll give y'all the okay.
I'm like a bald guy, beard. I can make that security.
No, yeah, that's what you do. And then, hey, you make security in WWE, your chances of being a future champion skyrocket.
Oh, that's the extra, LA Knight, Priest, name him. Yeah, you've been there, done that. All right, and we missed the comment here. No chance they go back to Rhea and Liv at Mania, right? 100% no, Pudgy Mike. I agree that they do not. I hope not anyways.
Yeah. Like, I think they're going to go Liv and Raquel for the tag division for a little bit.
Makes sense, yeah.
Like
beat Belair, honestly. And
yeah, I agree with that too. And then you have Liv as the bumper, and then you have Raquel as the heat, and have Raquel kind of like go slowly but surely kind of like get more comfortable in the ring, because ever since she's gotten back, I don't think she's really gotten the chance to kind of like get some reps in.
Yep.
She's been doing the bodyguard stuff, and even though like she's physically imposing and intimidating, that doesn't really translate well in terms of just like having her own as her own individual. So, like again, I think a tag title reign between the two. I mean, they've been champions before, so I think it'd be an extra additive to their characters as well.
It's a great place for Liv to kind of settle, coming off the good
Yeah,
2024 for her,
yeah,
to
and
see
still
where she's at. Kind of,
still having giving her an accomplishment too.
yeah,
Yeah, so
for
I'm
sure.
saying,
All right, Legends did not end there.
hmm
We get Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Ho, the Brain Busters, and Texas legend himself, Dory Funk Jr. What do you think of them three?
I think it was pretty fun. Like seeing the Brain Busters was surprising, because I know I think Blanchard like recorded some stuff for TNA because his daughter's there, and I was just like, oh, they're there. Arn's always a great treat to see. Hacksaw, I think he finished his treatment for cancer, so good for him with that. And the other one, what was the other one you said again?
Dory Funk Jr. looking better
Happy
than he
for
did in the
yeah.
1996 Royal Rumble.
Yeah, you know what? It's just like Dory's always good, and especially coming in this next segment, a little shout out to his brother Terry
Hmm.
is always it's always a fun thing. So like seeing those legends of the past is always cool to see.
I think 80 something, Loki, honestly, 90 something Dory Funk may have had a match in Japan in the last calendar year. Oh boy, he was old at that 96 Rumble, man. What, like, oof.
You know
Incredible.
what? You know what? There's still a possibility for this year too.
He was the AE, not the AEW. He was the NWA champion in the
Yeah.
70s. Honestly, the late 60s. He was the God, keep getting those checks, brother. Keep getting those
You know what?
checks.
It's like he's more than earned his retirement and respect. So my hat's off to him figuratively.
All right.
They'll
One
do.
more from Pudgy Mike here.
Mhm.
They'll do just Stratton belt at the chamber, right? They won't do Rhea's. I don't know. Maybe they'll do a number one contender. It's spotty what they do in the chamber. Who
Yeah,
knows?
because like for the past couple of years, it was like the contenderships
It's kind of whatever
for the
they need,
chamber.
honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good narrative tool to have. I have a strong feeling like Cena's going to be in one of the chambers, just because like they've been hyping up like this is his last time in Toronto.
Yeah, he's the cover boy of the pay-per-view.
Yeah, so it's like it just kind of makes sense where it's just like, all right, put Cena in the chamber, because what
Yeah,
else?
what makes me think he's not winning the
Yeah,
Rumble? I don't think he should win the Rumble
yeah.
anyways.
Honestly, I think like I think Punk's going to win the Rumble,
Yeah.
and then you could do. I'm not sure if I told you my idea where it's like Punk wins the Rumble, then throughout the year like he turns heel, hypothetically, and then at the end of the year you have a PLE or a special event called The Last Time Is Now, and you have Punk versus Cena in Boston, kind of like mirroring the like Punk in Chicago for
Mhm.
Money in the Bank, and kind of like go on from there.
All right, we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see. I'm if it's in Boston, I'm there. I just hope his
yeah,
last one's in Boston, honestly.
yeah. Honestly, I think it's going to be either that or MSG or in Chicago where he debuted for WWE. Those are like my three picks.
Yeah, watch it be fucking Kentucky. All right. No offense, Kentuckianers out there. All
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Undisputed WWE Championship contract signing. Cody
Mhm,
Rhodes, your champ. Kevin Owens, your fake champ. Shawn Michaels, your mediator.
mhm.
HBK getting that Texas welcome.
Yeah.
Man, he looks old when that cowboy hat comes off.
Mhm.
You
I mean,
know,
like he's the WWE father now. For the NXT kids. You had Dusty's kids, and now you have this generation's Shawn Michaels kids. And then
yeah,
probably the year after that will be, or probably after Shawn, it's gonna be Punk's kids. It's
he
gonna be
really
like,
is the perfect guy for
mhm.
NXT, really.
Yeah, you know.
But overall, paint by numbers contract signing. I don't have any timestamps for you, Richie, but
Mhm,
overall, it was a pretty good, effective segment.
mhm,
I will say, hot take, shit
mhm,
take, whatever you want to say. I think that the shirts Kevin Owens are getting a little too cute and low key corny. This one, they're all good. Like
mhm.
like honestly, the Naomi one's probably the best one against Jimmy Uso last night,
Yeah.
just because the substance of it all.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
like everyone has a suck and egg shirt.
Yeah.
Like been there, done that. Here's the thing: if he did it like once a month instead of every show, it would be cute. But I think he's getting too cute with it. I don't know. It's just a hot shit take. It's still overall a great gimmick and it's cool. Don't get me wrong.
Well,
but
I could see that
is
because
it too cool for a heel? Is what I'm saying. Like,
well, the thing is, he's been doing it since the Randy match. I call it like match in quotations. You know,
the
with the cowboy
yeah,
Bob shirt, and
then he was doing it
like,
before on like the walk-ins. He would wear the shirts, and then he started wearing them in the matches.
Yeah, you know. So it's just like I like the thing is, I enjoy them. I could see how. Like it could turn Kevin into the babyface of the situation. Some people think he is the babyface in this scenario with Cody.
He does
But
for sure.
but the thing is, it's just like the crowd's still reacting to Cody as the majority of the babyface. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not sure after that super kick, I'll be like, oof, you know, that Cody threw. Because I'm always like I like Cody. I just don't like his super kicks. I don't feel like he's like a super kick guy. You know, it's kind of like it kind of reminds me of like when Cena would kind of do the stunner a little bit, where it's just kind of like,
oh my god, yeah, he did.
yeah,
I forgot about that.
yeah,
He bastardized the stunner. Oh,
yeah. So it's like I'm not like a big fan of Cody's super kick, but with the as a segment in concern, it did a good job of having Kevin Owens be the complainer. You know, and him being like toe to toe with Shawn Michaels is obvious heat. Like I think I did with the preview of you. I think Kevin putting Shawn Michaels through the table would have been like a good way to get heat, but this did just as well, you know. And my thing that was very interesting is that like, you know, Cody and Shawn stood tall. And usually when that happens, that's like, oh, okay, maybe they're going the different direction. But then I get reminded that we still have 2 more shows going into the Rumble. We have Raw and then we have SmackDown for 3 hours. God help me. But like so there's plenty of time for Kevin to get his heat back, but this was all just for like, you know, to them hold the championships in abeyance and then kind of like hype up the ladder match. And what I'm excited with this, it's like I don't think we've had a ladder match that's been this hyped up as something special. And that's what I want to credit this era of WWE is just like now match types are feeling like special again, which is always pretty cool.
Honestly, announcing it 6-7 weeks ago was a good omen. Really, it really set it and presented it to be built up in such a way week to week where the stakes seemed higher and higher and the likelihood of Kevin Owens became more and more because of the ladder of it all, right? So to announce that way back when was kind of genius in a way, right? When I felt like, wow, they already announced, they're not going to like make us jump through hoops to get to the stipulation. They're just going to announce that ladder stipulation.
Yeah.
But you know, the build, you can see the building blocks and what it's done for Kevin Owens' chances from a perception standpoint. It's been great.
Yeah, and I don't even think Cody's won a ladder match now that I think about it. I don't think he has.
Nate, well, all right. So I know that he was in what, the Guevara one.
He was in the Guevara, like he was
WrestleMania 32,
like the Revolution ladder match.
31.
Yeah, the Revolution ladder match for AEW, but I don't think he's actually won a ladder match. So it's just like
you wouldn't think that he's necessarily like a ladder match guy. He's not big and burly to take all the bumps,
right? Yeah,
but he's not a super high flyer. But
he's been in like enough where you think it's like, oh, maybe he should have won one. But it's like, yeah, again, a paint by numbers segment. But like with a segment like this, I struggle to think what else can they do for Raw and SmackDown. You know,
the belts are gone, so it's. I would tease a little more with Sammy with KO. I wouldn't have Cody on Raw. And then
Cody's doing the Raw. He's going to be on Raw this week.
Oh, they announced it?
Yeah, he's going to be on Raw this week.
Oh, then I would do Cody with Sammy.
Yeah,
because I was going to say on SmackDown I would do Sammy with Cody. But yeah, I would keep KO off Raw, and then I would have Cody, Sammy, and then I would just have like Michael Cole or whoever do backstage interviews with
like moderate
night before on SmackDown with both of them, right? I wouldn't I wouldn't have them touch each other anymore.
Yeah, because I think it's like one of those like we saw it happen, like and that's what it was. And it's like again, the segment got great like reactions, so I think it's what they were looking for.
Yeah, overall, do you feel that it's more likely for Sami Zayn, or I don't really think Shawn Michaels, but I'm going to present them both to be active around Kevin Owens? in the WWE or this match. I feel it's more Sammy's more likely, but the super kick could be something.
I think like they've been building Sammy for a little bit, as that person with Kevin, because again, Kevin like attacked Cody and his justification was Cody teamed with Roman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But now Kevin Owens is kind of like flipping that on Sammy, saying it's like you're gonna help me like you did your friend Roman, right?
It's gaslighting the motherfucker.
Yeah, well, yeah, gaslighting and also putting the ball in Sami Zayn's court. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, if you don't help me, then you're not on my side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's one of those like things where I think Sammy like ties into it, especially with that promo saying he wants to be world champion. So it's one of those things where it's like it could very possibly be Sammy making the deciding factor during that match. Like you could see a scenario where Kevin handcuffs like Cody, and then Kevin's about to climb, but it's like Sammy like for the good like releases the handcuffs as Kevin's like seeing it, and then they could argue or something like that. So it's like yeah,
I going there. Sammy KO.
Like I don't. The thing is, it's like I don't see it for this WrestleMania. I think they're building it for the next Mania. Like that's what I think. Where I think they're going to play the long game. They're going to play like Kevin being the one to give Sami Zayn his first world title win. So it's like a full circle moment. Sammy was the first one to give Kevin Owens his first like WWE championship, which was the NXT title. And then Sammy's first world championship will be at the hands of Kevin Owens by defeating him. So I think that's where they're kind of building to. And even Kevin said on the Ariel Helwani show, that's what he wants to do, depending if the story's right. It's just that you have so many stories going into WrestleMania already. You have the John Cena retirement. You have what Punk's going to do, Roman, So it's like one of those, do we have room for this year? Or should we just kind of like start kind of building it towards next year and still build that Sami Zayn world title arc?
Yep. Michaels, just like a San Antonio pop kind of thing. Because I know that KO pitched a match for him.
Yeah, and Sean was like Sean texted him saying, I'm getting like shoulder surgery or something. And Kevin's like, dude, if you didn't want to have the match, you didn't have to go get shoulder surgery for it. He
seems to be getting pitched WrestleMania matches every other year, right? But
yeah,
Kevin Owens has outstanding luck at WrestleMania the last few years, really finding himself in big matches. So,
like, I feel like Kevin, like the safe bet for Kevin this year is Randy. I feel like,
yeah, same.
Because that's the story they're going with, and plus I wouldn't do the Kevin Owens Randy match at Elimination Chamber because Toronto. And Kevin Owens, even though he's Quebec, he's good. He's very popular in Canada. So
he's a Maple Leaf at heart.
Yeah, so I would just say Kevin and Randy this year, and then you could focus on the Kevin and Sammy story for next year.
Never say never, though.
No, of course, no. But that's just my train of thought as of this moment, as of this recording.
Now let's say he goes. Does he go with the hair or does he go bald? What does he do?
Randall.
No, Michael. We're saying Michael. That he's having the match.
Okay.
Just strictly to discuss the hair situation. Does he go bald, or does he have whatever situation he's got going on now? Or does he wrestle with the super glue cowboy hat on?
I think he'll like start with the bandana, when he had that for a little bit, but he'll keep his hair structure.
I like the Nick Gage look. One from the figure from the Saudi show, whatever.
Just the random bald Michaels. I remember everyone was freaking out seeing that. I was freaking out seeing that, and I was just like,
it made his eyes super crookeder.
Crookeder.
Poor HBK, all-time favorite of mine. That look at I'm even wearing the rocker short for him here tonight. Like, look at that. What are we doing?
You know what? I was gonna respect the rocker.
All right, what did you think of the presentation of the Braun Strowman and Jacob Fatu match with the video packages? I thought McAfee and
I like the
pretty good job of it, and it really set the table for like another monster style match. I dug it.
Yeah, it was a different presentation from the Braun and Bronson Last Man Standing match. Where they're in the city and they're just like King Kong and the Godzilla. This one was more like Terminator or Robot-esque, where it's just like you're having these two mech fighters fight each other, and with the tails of the tape, like this is how their neck width, their chest width, like everything in general. So like I was a fan of it. I was a fan of the presentation. And with this being Jacob's, like, the attention solely on him, he's the main focus in comparison to how he was booked prior. It's very interesting, especially with Solo out of commission for now.
Yeah.
And like, as far as a presentation, I thought like one thing I wish they would have done was, how they do like the Strowman Express thing. Like he countered it with the Samoan drop, which was cool. But I thought it would have been like even more powerful if he tried the Strowman Express and then Jacob just like shoulder tackles him down. Where it's just like you see this guy in like different scenarios that we've been repetitive like seeing, and then when something different happens to make him seem like that much of a monster, that's like really shocks the crowd. Like remember when he popped up from Randy's like DDT, like after he hit the Hangman DDT at Money in the Bank.
Yep.
And like people went nuts for that. So it's like you could do a lot by doing a little, if that makes sense. And I feel like with Jacob Fatu, you could present him as how he wants to be presented by not doing much at all. But what they did here was like even like maybe even better, because the whole like moonsault deal at the end, like Braun is like spitting up blood, internal injuries, and just leaving you with a shocking visual because no one has left Braun Strowman like that before.
Yeah,
so,
I found it a little similar to what's his name, the Tsunami, Bronson Reed, but this was like on a much, I don't want to say a much bigger stage, but it was a little bit more of a bigger presentation because they had the Providence Street fight where they did the whole car scene and everything.
Yeah.
And then they had the Monster Ball match or the Monster Strowman match, but they didn't get to the submission part of where Strowman was like legit out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He kept fighting and he actually won the Monster Ball. I want to keep calling it Monster Ball. The last
monster standing. Yeah.
Like he actually won that match from Reed, but like, and then for them to cash in that equity here where he was literally bleeding from the mouth that landed on the chest and the back-to-back Samoan, drops or whatever. Great presentation. Just shows you what they want Jacob Fatu to be in the future. And this was a good spot to do this with Strowman because there's just enough distance from the Bronson Reed feud, but it was still close enough where you can kind of harp on it and be like, oh wow, they're going there again. And there was the equity of that win that could cash in here too. So overall, quick before I get your thought on that, Richie, your dad is one of my favorite guitar players. We didn't know that your dad was a part of Martin Crew. Is Nicky Mars your dad?
He's my third cousin removed, and Bruno Mars is my first cousin.
Wow. Okay. There you go, Steve Bennett. That you get Bruno Mars. Wow.
Yeah.
Do you happen to know? Is Bruno Mars the guy that always has the WrestleMania theme song? Is it?
Yes. And
no, that's not Bruno Mars. Who is that? I'm so stupid. Who is that? Come on, help me out here.
The WrestleMania theme song?
Yeah, The Weeknd. The Weeknd.
Yeah. The Weeknd. I was just
like, see where I'm at with pop culture music.
But a fun fact: Bruno Mars actually got the name Bruno from Bruno Sammartino.
No shit.
Yeah, I'm serious. Yeah.
So he got his first name from Bruno Sammartino.
Yeah, that's his
last name from you.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it is. That's what happens. You combine two greats together and you make one super name. It's kind of like when the Attitude Era was happening. You had all these backyard wrestlers being named like Rock Hard Rick Austin or something like that.
Steve Bennett, you hear that? Bruno Sammartino helped name Bruno Mars. I think Bennett's going to respect that probably. He's a big Italian mark. So,
well,
there you go. You learn something new every day. I had no clue that that's where it came from. Yeah. Interesting.
But
overall, anything to say about the anything lasting to say about the
Braun's in that position where it's like same position as Sheamus, kind of like this gatekeeper area, but he's more gatekeepers to the other monsters.
Yeah, right. The potential monsters. We're
Yeah,
going to see how big. You got to go against Sully before you can
Yeah,
turn him in.
it's like it was same position Kane was in, same position Big Show was in.
It's a great pop. Yeah, great.
And it's like it's always going to get a pop where it's like the stare down's always going to get a reaction, like the Jacob Fatu, even Braun Breaker like stare down from the IC title match with Jay, like that got a great reaction. So you're always going to get like a good like reaction from a Haas fight. And now that we have Omos coming back, like you could potentially even do something like that.
All right, now I failed you, Richie. That Braun Strowman defeating Jacob Fatu by disqualification match lasted 9 minutes. Would you like to take a guess at how much was shown on TV?
Probably like 6.5.
Unfortunately, my guy right here does not have that details.
Just fill it in.
Yeah, I'm gonna. All right, so let me reference Wikipedia one more time. 9 minutes. All right, I'm gonna just go kayfabe. It was 7 minutes and 2 seconds, Richie. Just so you know.
Kafabe.
Interesting. No, but very, very cool. I liked in the pacing, right? They got right to it. Like there was no feeling each other out. It was not Madison Square Garden in the mid '80s where they had time to fill. They got right.
You got to get the test of strength there, brother. Feel that out.
Yeah, they did a great job of elevating Jacob Fatu up a peg, up a peg, up a peg. There was a lot of equity in Braun Strowman, and they kind of saved a little bit too with the finish, right? So honestly, I think that is a 2025 PLE match for sure. And I think it'll be a big one when they go, because think about the Reed one with Strowman really delivered in the last Monster Standing. Add Fatu, who's probably a little better than Reed in my opinion. Actually, a lot better than Reed in my opinion. But I think that it's kind of can't miss. So it's good stuff.
Honestly, I could see them do like either not last Monster Standing, but I think Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley did like a Falls Count Anywhere before.
Yeah, what was that? Heyman's first Raw, where it was
like it was around the Heyman era, where it's just like it ended like in the crowd. I could see something like that.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, good shit. I'm down with that for sure. Yeah. All right, and then that's when they showed the I Show Speed Triple H video where they kind of ran down the Rumble as well. We kind of touched on that a little bit already, but overall, you anticipating the Royal Rumble 4-match card? I think it's gonna be awesome.
You know what? It's like I'm always a fan of the Rumble, and it's like
who isn't though, right?
Yeah, it's one of those, like, even if the card doesn't look great, it's like, but it's the Rumble, it's like people get excited with the entrance, like the surprises that could happen, and just like it's almost like the first Band-Aid rip for the road to WrestleMania, where it's like, okay, now we know the direction that majority of the people are going, or it's like this anticipation on like what's gonna happen. Yeah. And I feel like the matches in general are like a good like blocks between the Rumbles, where it's like you could start off hot with the either the ladder match or the 2 out of 3 falls match. Then you have the Rumbles, and then you have like you kind of like sandwich them together. My only concern is it's like I feel like if you put on the tag match after one of the Rumbles, you're going to get a very quiet crowd, or any like match in general. It's going to be.
I think that's structured smartly to go 2 out of 3 falls, because that will build. Because you're going to definitely get that. I'd go women's, then the 2 out of 3, then Cody, then the men's Rumble.
Yeah, that's where my head was going at too. So it's like I really like the style. And you were even talking about like the SmackDown tag title match being one. I was like, I'm not sure, but then they actually like pulled the trigger and being like, oh, it's 2 out of 3 falls, and that should be really cool. I'm just kind of concerned because DIY and MCMG haven't really been built up like their reaction wise, but I think their in-ring work is going to speak for themselves, and it's going to be a good match.
See, with the 2 out of 3 falls and coming off the Rumble, we assume that they can, that reaction they're going to kind of build within the match, right? I feel that they're going to go out there. We'll get into it with we're going to behind the curtain. We're going to preview that, so I don't want to go too far into it.
Right?
I feel that is in a perfect spot.
Yeah,
and it's well deserved.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, but the main event time, I feel like there was so much wasted time getting into this main event. But Gunther versus main event Jey Uso but still 16 minutes and 40 seconds. Still a decently long match, but I felt that it was taking forever. us. Like we got the big entrances.
I mean, it was the same
Rumble rundown.
Yeah, it was the same time as the Cody and KO match from last Saturday night's main event.
Yeah.
So it's
Before we get into it, Richie,
yeah,
I'd love for you to guess on what was actually on TV shown.
Probably like
1640.
Probably like 11 or 12.
It's criminal. It's
Yeah.
criminal. 10 minutes, 5 seconds. There was 6 minutes and 35 seconds cut out of this match for a commercial. Yeah. All right. Enough of that. And it took like 15 minutes from the Strowman match to get to this match. So much wasted time.
Yeah, well, you gotta get that Rumble advertisement in there, you know?
And you get just filter in those commercials somewhere else. Yeah. But I get it. Like, but overall, I felt that hampered the match. But overall, once they got to like the climax of the heat, the climax of the closing stretch, it was incredible. It reminded me a little bit of Breaker in Jay, right? That big splash.
I was gonna say, yeah.
I don't want to jump to the finish here, but that big splash was built so well. But I felt that it kind of reminded me a little bit early of the Roman match where you get the big J entrance, you get the involvement from the crowd, everyone's eating their pants off. But then once the bell rings, you kind of settle in. Yeah. And you're like, all right. You know, they're building to it. And then you're like 10 minutes in, you're like, this isn't that good. And like, all right, let's get to it. This really wasn't that good. And then it was like, all right, a gentleman's 3. But I felt that with Gunther, he's just so good at the in-between stuff. When he's settling into the shine, he gives Jay hope spots that he's just so good and compelling that we didn't really have that gap. The only reason I felt that this match was hurt a little bit is because of the structure of the long TV breaks in between.
Sure.
Now, was a 3-segment bell match, or did we just have like a really long in between? I felt we had 2 commercials, correct?
I believe we had 2. I think, but there was a 3rd commercial in between Jay's entrance and Gunther.
So this is a 3-seg. Yeah. With the entrances.
Because I looked at my phone and I looked at it. It was like around 9:30 when this was about to happen.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, because I felt that, you know, kind of overall it hampered the match, but it didn't hamper the climax and the closing stretch. They still got there. And honestly, King of the Ring, Intercontinental Champion early in 2024, Gunther's got to be Jey Uso's best single opponent.
Honestly, I agree with you. And I feel like there's been all this discourse with Jay about him not being a good in-ring competitor and stuff. And the thing is, it's just like, oh, his moveset's limited. So was somebody named John Cena, and people seem to love him a little bit. I feel like Jay has the best crowd control, like, in WWE. Yeah. You know, because even if his moves are very simplistic, they're with him every step of the way. Even with a punch, it's like every time he hits a punch, yeet. Kick, yeet. Just like everything.
His investment is in draw from that crowd. It's continuous, really.
And the thing is, it's like he became the #1 merch seller after winning the Intercontinental Championship. Like, think how crazy that is. Like, you would expect that if somebody wins the world title for the first time, but his first singles championship win, he beats out Roman and Punk in terms of merch sales. And that's pretty that shows a testament on how over he is right now.
And to that point, Richie, he has a strong connection, extremely strong connection to the younger crowd.
Yeah, and it's pretty rare to have that emotional connection, not only with the younger crowd, but with the adult crowd too.
Yeah.
And I feel like Jay's in that like Cody spot where it was Cody like as he returned kind of deal.
Yeah.
But now with Jay, I feel like it's a good argument to have where it's like you can't beat him too much because then the people start losing faith because you can only lose so many times. But with Jay, the story is him gaining respect as a solo competitor, which was pretty much the crux of this entire story and this entire match. And you could see it at the end of the match where Gunther looks stunned, like he looks scared, you know.
He earned his respect from a character standpoint.
Yeah, and you saw it as he grabbed the title right away. Something as simple as that, it wasn't like confidence this time around. Like the first time with the IC title, Jay almost beat Gunther. The King of the Ring match, it was definitive. Gunther made Jay pass out. This time, Jay legitimately like almost beat him. You know, like I said on a couple predictions where it's like 99% of me is telling me Gunther's win, but there's that 1% where it's like they can do a switch right here. Because Jay's just that popular and that over where you can make it believable.
Yeah, and for sure. And when he won the IC, it was like out of nowhere. You're like, oh, he's going again with the IC. Breaker just won. Like they're not going to give it to Jay. Why are they going to present Jay to lose again?
I actually thought he would. I actually thought he would win that one.
Yeah.
Just because I was like,
in hindsight, no.
I'm just like, no, like if I have the video receipts, but even then, I was like looking at it, and I was just like, I think they're giving it to Jay, because it's just kind of like Braun was just like a little. They were very, very like heavy-handedly like to the disrespect of Jay. I was just like, okay, but the thing is, it's like let's say you have 10 main events, you lose 9 of them, you win 1. Which one are you going to remember more? The one win, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's just like one of those things where you could put Jay in any position on the card, and it's going to be believable. And that's really rare to have as over as he is. He's not just like, just throw Jay in here. It's like, no, you throw Jay in there, like the crowd is instantly invested in this match. And that's really hard to find, not only in WWE, but just wrestling in general. And I feel like we did say that Gunther's Jay's best opponent. I will say, I don't like how Gunther takes the spear from Jay. I'm not sure if that's on Gunther or if that's on Jay, but it's like, it always kind of feels like a running hug kind of deal.
Yeah, for sure. Overall, and I had missed it, but let me kind of veer off and ask you a separate question. Mm-hmm. I had Mr. Blood on for a preview for this match, and I asked him, will Jay Uso win the World Heavyweight or WWE title in 2025? And he said no, just because Triple H seems to have 2025 locked down, but he did feel that Jay Uso should and will win Money in the Bank. And I was just like, he kind of should win Money in the Bank, right? That's actually kind of perfect. Yeah. What do you think? What do you think of my question there? 2025, will Jay Uso be a world champion?
I think it's very possible. I think it's like, if you want a definitive answer, it's so tough because the main event scene is like really stacked. Like it's like Attitude Era-esque stacked, where it's just like anyone could feasibly become a world champion anytime. But with Jay, if he were to become a world champion this year, I could see it not being that particularly long. But at the end of after the show cut off the air, Cody,
abruptly, by the way,
Cody came in and he gave Jay a hug. So that's kind of like, the endorsement of like, he's going to get his eventually. We don't know when, but he is. But Jay's kind of like on this journey of proving himself as a solo competitor. And I feel like Gunther was like that final test of him being respected. And you still have that story with Roman with Jay, with Roman not really apologizing to him.
Yeah.
And not saying it's going to culminate in a match between the two, but Jay's going to show everyone that he is, his own guy. Because remember, the first time, like, he had the title shot against Roman, he said, the biggest question people ask him is, which one are you? Referring to, like, which Uso are you?
Jimmy or Jay, yeah.
Yeah. Now he's at a point where it's like he has his own identifiable personality, but now it's all about not only proving he's a solo guy, but he's a singles guy as well. If I was booking this, and why would you give me that power? I would have Jay as world champion, then you have Kevin take it off Jay, and then you have Kevin drop it to Sammy, if they really want to go with the Kevin and Sammy story.
All this on Monday Night Raw?
Yeah, probably on Raw.
All right. Cody or Gunther, which one will lose the belt first? Just curious what your thought is.
Probably Gunther.
I would think so. If I had a gun to my head, I would pick as Gunther as well.
Yeah, because like with Cody, like going back to the merch thing, like he's as not as exciting as the stories can be. Personally, it's like I feel like this one with Kevin is probably the first time where I'm like, ooh, okay, like this is actually a really good story. He's been making the company money hand over fist. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like one of those things where like you just kind of go with the hot hand, and right now Cody is perpetually like the hot hand for WWE, and like depending what he's doing for WrestleMania, whether it's number 31, The Rock, or if it's John Cena, or if it's Punk, you know. Like you have a lot of great options, and I feel like there's more options still with Cody as champion than Gunther as champion currently, because Gunther's IC reign was about his work rate. Gunther's world title reign is about his character work.
Yeah, and his star power and his presence. Yeah, for sure.
So it's like I feel like Cody would lose it after Gunther.
All right, we're here at the end, Richie. I felt that overall it was a successful Saturday night's main event, even though my sentiment to start was kind of a little bit disappointing. Yeah. But once we kind of talked through it, I was like, why am I disappointed? I just set the bar and I anticipated so much. I got to stop doing that. That's not a me problem. That's a me problem, not a them problem. Because again, I would say they probably presented us a 7 out of 10 Saturday night's main event yet again. And probably, honestly, the best match on Saturday night's main event so far with Gunther. Excuse me, not with Gunther, with Sheamus and Breaker, perhaps. So overall, I think it's a hit. They, like Dominic said in the chat earlier, continue with the nostalgia. I think that they found their pace with that nostalgia, with how they present it, people in the crowd, Jesse Ventura, a little video packages here and there, and, you know, a little structure built around a star from the past. This time around, Shawn Michaels. So I think they're cruising with this, and I think they found their footing, and I think 4 is much more digestible than 5 matches. And then I think it wasn't gaga, but I think we got enough sports entertainment with the contract signing, right? And it was still building to something as well for the match next weekend at the Rumble. So overall, I think they found a pretty good pace. Where do you think Saturday Night Main Event is kind of now after their second show?
I think Saturday night's main event is they're trying to not only tie over the casual viewers and with the dedicated audience, but also trying to carry over, you know, the people who just watched Saturday night main event, even if that sounds very silly to say, because, you know, you had the Cody and KO stuff kind of like bleed into this Saturday night's main event so it's like, so for people who watched that time, then it's like, oh, that's what happened through this whole thing. And then you could kind of like watch back and see how the Cody and KO story progressed. So it's like kind of smart that way. I feel like if there's a common theme with, like, the first one was about, oh, Saturday night's main event bag. Like, let's tie in all these old acts or just nostalgia acts, not saying old or seasoned, but then you tie it in there. And then it's like putting a showcase on the names you want to showcase on your television screen. Yeah. And I feel like that's very important in terms of just like, you know, live television on a network and having that lead into Saturday Night Live. And it's a good, like, kind of like feather in the cap where it's like, hey, I was on Saturday night's main event, you know, and now it's like I'm women's US champion, or it's like I'm here, you know. And honestly, Saturday night's main event, since it's going to be quarterly, it's a good way to advertise, you know, the upcoming like super shows like they did for the Chamber, like what they did for the Rumble. Yep. So I think it has like a solid like formula in a way of advertising for WWE and their other products, which is pretty much what they're going to go with for the remainder of the year while they're on Netflix, USA, Peacock, what have you. And just looking at this show as a way to not only promote their current storylines, but also promote their product even more to those who are watching wrestling for the first time in a long time or just the first time in forever.
Yeah, and mind you, this is their second Saturday night's main event, and they still haven't had 2 of their biggest stars on it yet, CM Punk or Roman Reigns.
And CM Punk was backstage in the first one too, because he wanted to meet
Coco Beware.
And he just wanted to meet Jesse Ventura, which I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. So I think they found a pretty good pace, and it's like an A- B+ show, right? It's
I thought it was fun. Like, I thought it was like a B, you know, like B, like probably in that range, just because it's like match quality. It's like Saturday night's main event. It's not about the matches as crazy as it is to say. It's more about the vibe. It's more about not only the vibe and advertising for the show, the super show that's coming up. So for advertising, I think they did a fine job with that, and for just showcasing other talents that might not have big plans for the Rumble. You know, you still got them and showed them out there. So points to them for that.
Yeah, so we're here at the end, Richie, guys. Thanks to the guys that contributed in the chat. That adds to the show and makes it fun as always, Richie. Thanks for jumping on with me here at the
Thank
last
you.
minute and getting this together. So it
Yeah,
was fun as
thank you
always.
for having me. It's always fun having these little post shows with you, and just kind of like talking through what we just saw and figuring out. It's like, oh, I didn't realize that as I was watching it, and then just realizing as we're discussing, because that's what wrestling's all about: seeing perspectives and seeing if it changes our perspectives or if it enhances what we already thought.
Yeah, for sure. Last time you were able to text me your live perspective,
Hmm.
and this time you were able to give me your at home perspective. So,
Yeah.
thanks for jumping on as always. And we'll see you for a Royal Rumble preview. I believe we're going to do the Machine Guns versus DIY in
Yep.
2 out of 3 falls. So that would be probably on the feed probably tomorrow or Monday.
Yeah.
So
I can't wait for it.
yeah, we'll get into it there. So check that
Yeah.
out, guys. And Richie, we'll see you on the next one, buddy.
Yeah. Thank you for having me as always.
See you guys. Thank you.